Hello everybody and welcome back to Raging Demons RPG. As promised, I'm going to be discussing the origin story of the Raging Demons themselves. At first, I thought it would be ill-received and a bad idea to discuss this topic. Not because I was particularly embarrassed about the goings-on in our game, or the fact that I disliked any of the characters or the games that we played. I had just thought, up until this point, that there were those out there in other gaming groups that would have absolutely no want to listen to me talk about what goes on in our gaming group. It's a bit like when people tell you about their children. You pretend to listen. It's a bit when people... Let's track back there. It's a bit when people you don't particularly care about try and tell you about their children. They're not directly close friends to you. They're not family. But they decide, yes, little Jeffrey has spoken his first word, and what was his first word? Well, actually, it was a bit of a mishmash. It sounded like somewhere between poppycock and down with the presidency. I'm not sure, but either way, it's fantastic, and I just love talking about my children, my brood, and of course, naturally, this kid at this exact moment in time that she's proclaiming is absolutely brilliant, is doing something akin to, doing some deep bore mining in his rectal cavity with his index finger. So, yeah, that's to me, that's what I thought gaming group discussions about different incidences would evoke just that level of just level that boredom, just total snooze fest. So, alright, without further ado, let's get this baby cracking. Okay, so, as you know, the Raging Demons were a mercenary group in Rifts. Those of you who are not familiar with Rifts, please look at some of my previous videos, or type it into Google. What do you expect me to know everything here? It's the internet. Use it. Alright, so, Rifts. Fantastic game. Don't like it? Get out of here. Press close. Raging Demons actually didn't start out as the Raging Demons. It's not like everybody rolled up their characters and they knew they wanted to be in a mercenary group. That was just kind of how it evolved. And my furthest recollection of how it all came to be was that the group, a hodgepodge of different characters, as always happens in Rifts. I'm not going to get into any particular characters today either, because each one of those have such an extensive backstory, most of them, at least the original crew of the Raging Demons, that it wouldn't be fair to just kind of sum them up as, a cast of characters. So I'm going to leave them alone. Needless to say, the group itself, though, came together in the usual ways, and started working for a mercenary group known as Demon Busters Incorporated. Now, this is actually a real mercenary group. I know the name is just so phoned in, but nonetheless, their particular write-up on what they do, where they operate, and what sort of equipment they have, really kind of appealed to the characters, so they decided to hop on board. I think it was originally just intended to be a laugh. What the hell, we're gaming, let's join a mercenary group. They thought nothing of it. So working for Demon Busters Incorporated, they had to answer to a few of the higher-ups, and I think that must have rubbed them the wrong way after a while, because my players can be very independent, and they have their own ideas in the ways, the world should work. So as time progressed, I remember they I remember distinctly the exact turning point where they left Demon Busters Incorporated and migrated over into the Raging Demons was there was a crucial point where they were on mission in Europe, which is actually quite the achievement. They're normally based on North America, but Europe is hard to get to because a lot of the conventional means of travel are not available. And so having a mission over in Europe was a big deal. Now, whilst there, they had to break up a cult of what are known as blood druids, and basically stop them from unleashing untold nastiness through a rift. Pretty standard stuff. Now, these blood druids, amongst them was one particular member. Now, he is a bit of a mixed bag. He might have been a blood druid at that point, but he's got a few he got a few other classes that he has stacked up, all magical. So, he had a few tricks up his sleeve. But at the time of the character's arrival, Demon Busters Incorporated's arrival, I should say, this particular blood druid decided to aid the party in the defeat of his brethren. To what end, they never really found out, but he had his reasons, I assure you. So, they actually, with his help, were able to take him down quite easily. Well, not quite easily. Took him a little bit. But they weren't going in there blind. They actually had some inside information, and they were able to prepare themselves better. So the mission went well, to say the least. This blood druid, they asked him to actually come along with them. I mean, the Demon Busters Incorporated's idea was to get rid of him, because Demon Busters Incorporated, as the name suggests, says that they wanted to, they want to get rid of all demons. Big surprise. So they wanted this guy dead. The Raging Demons didn't really agree with that, and, well, that's where the sort of schism occurred. Schism. Somebody please tell me how they properly pronounce that, because I've heard it both ways, and I think it's really just a cultural thing. Anyway, so the schism formed between the two groups, and my players broke away from Demon Busters Incorporated, all because of this one particular blood druid. This blood druid, for whatever reason, was elected at that point because of his, I guess, advanced age and maybe his wealth of knowledge, the group elected him to be something of an administrator. Not so much a leader, but an administrator. They needed to find jobs, and with his, I guess, implied interdimensional connections, he could, in fact, acquire those jobs. And that, a player character didn't have to do all the heavy lifting. So, basically, here, GM, you take care of it. Oh, thanks, guys. You guys really appreciate me. Yeah, alright, moving along. So, they have forevermore referred to this guy as Boss Man. And I really mean that. I don't even think we had a real name for him. Well, at least I don't think they had his real name. Pretty sure I have it. It's probably tucked away somewhere or has been lost to the mists of time. But yeah, this boss man accompanied them back to North America. Now in North America, they were still having quite a bit of difficulty with the coalition states, which is the ruling government in North America. Well, one of the largest ruling governments, let's say, in North America. And they were on the run, non-stop. Coalition wanted them gone. They just had pissed them off, and if you get on the Coalition's radar, they will invest quite a bit to make you go away, including sending other mercenary groups after you. There was no Demon Busters, and the Demon Busters don't normally associate themselves with the Coalition, so there wasn't like a revenge scenario that came up, although that would have been pretty funny. So basically, how it all started, where they kind of became the Raging Demons in a formal sense, was they actually, on the run, came across an old, abandoned, what's known in the game as pre-Rifts airfield. And on this airfield, they discovered several usable vehicles, old late 20th century vehicles, usable hangars, fully intact. It was some sort of base at one point, pretty remote, hard to access, at least by that day's standards. Now it had been completely overgrown and was quite accessible. But they also discovered one key artifact, and it was a box developed by the United States, which had numerous United States Air Force logos on it. Now, in this box was a set of 5 spherical objects, and they were seamless, perfectly spherical, just little, shiny black balls. And I know how many people are giggling right now at the fact that I just said that. Alright, these shiny black balls were, well, they kind of sucked a little bit of power out of the clip of one of the guns from the guys. And they thought this was very strange. So they thought, well, what the hell? Let's go ahead and hook up a clip generator, which is actually like it's a way in which to recharge your clips, because it's all energy-based weapons. So they hooked this up, and that was enough juice, and that did it. And oh, good lord. These 5 balls erupted into a ring. Well, they formed a 5-pointed ring. Basically, that's safe to say 50 feet across? Yeah, 50 feet across. They began to spin clockwise and in a circular fashion. And it, no surprise, it was the opening of an artificially created portal, much the same as a rift, but it was interdimensional. So, needless to say, when this activated fully, it brought in a bunch of different things, in fact even transplanting overlapping time periods onto the base itself. So time, space, and alternate dimensions fused into one point. And some very interesting things appeared on the base, some good, some bad, and they would form some of the key components of the Raging Demons from then on. Looks like there might be a part 2 to this, as I've run a little bit long with this one. So stay tuned. I guess there'll be a Raging Demons intro part 2. And if you're wondering where I got the idea for the spherical objects, you'll have to go ahead and take a look back at a really old 80s science fiction movie called My Science Project. The only person you'll probably recognize out of there was Dennis Hopper. He played a college professor who, let's just say, was affected by the science project. So, yeah, check that out if you're really, really curious. It's actually kind of a curious little movie. You never know what might affect your next game. But, yeah, stay tuned for part 2, and I'll talk to you guys later. Keep the dice rolling. Cheers.